Good afternoon, baseball fans. I'm Chris Durrell. I'm here for dailyfantasysportsrankings.com, rotopros.com. And what I want to do today is kind of go over my daily fantasy baseball cheat sheet. And for those of you that have been using it in the past, you're probably familiar with the pitchers sheet here and some of the stuff. I've never done a video explaining it really too well, so that's kind of what I'm going to go through today. And for those of you that haven't used it before, I'm going to kind of explain the stats, where they come from, which ones I look at on a daily basis when looking at my pitchers. And then something I've added over the All-Star break is the team stacking tab here as well, so I'm going to kind of go over that as well. So with that, let's get started here. So the first thing you're going to see, it's going to be a view only when you download it, and I provide it in both sites, premium chats for customers there, as well as on the DFSR Daily MLB article. You can find it there as well. It's currently free, so feel free to go in, jump in, grab your copy. Something you're going to want to do if you want to sort any of these columns, because it is going to be view only, is go up to File, make a copy, name it whatever you want here. I made one here and just called it copy. Click OK. It's going to open up another one, and it's going to be fully customizable. So, like for instance, if you wanted to go and sort pitchers by highest odds during that day, you're going to click anywhere in that I column, and you're going to go up to Data and sort A to Z, which would be the best odds down to the lowest. So you can see Trevor Bauer, and you got Wade LeBlanc's -200, David Price is -182. So these odds, that is the odds that we pull, that I pull for this sheet. I update them probably 2 or 3 times during the day. Just, sometimes there's some big shifts in odds, and then usually the last update will come about a half an hour to an hour before lineup lock. So then we got the Vegas over under here. Got the pitcher, team, opponent, whether he's left-handed or right-handed, his DK and his FanDuel price. We've got park factor here, and sliding over and having a look at the park factor, the way I've been looking at it this season is I've got 2018, 2017, and 2016 park factors, and they are sorted by runs right now. I'm not really looking at the home runs and the power kind of stuff, so if you want to have a look and just see, you can, but I take an average of the last 3 years. So what you're going to see on this main pitcher sheet is, for pitchers, green obviously is going to be better. So Seattle's a good pitcher's park, so is Tampa Bay. Texas is not. So red's bad, green's good. That kind of goes throughout the entire sheet when it comes to color-coded and stuff. I'm just going to go back and sort here. Z to A for highest, salary to lowest. And then over in slate, if there's more than... if there's a day slate, I always put E there, and E just means early. For early slate, there's only one game in the early slate today, so you can either play it in the all-day slate or in the showdown. So then sliding over, having a look at some of the pitcher stats, we've got ERA, xFIP, Sierra, K per 9, K percentage, walks per 9, swinging strike rate, ground ball, fly ball rate, home run per fly ball rate, and then as well we've got hard contact percentage. Now these are just for the season, these aren't splits or anything like that. That's something I'm going to be probably adding here in the future, is just more of an evaluation of pitcher when looking at home, road, versus left-handed batters versus right-handed batters. And that's something you're also going to see when I get into the team stacking tab as well. Then we slide over and we've got the opponent. So today, for instance, Trevor Bauer is facing Texas. So for the season, this is their WOBA, WRC plus, ISO, which is isolated power, and K percentage. That's overall. So then we've also got the opponent's last 14 days. So as you can see, over the last 14 days, Texas is a little worse than they have been for the season, striking out more, lower ISO, lower WRC plus, lower WOBA. So they've kind of been trending down over the last 2 weeks coming into this matchup. So that's going to be a good thing for our pitcher. And then sliding over a little more, we've got splits. So we've got that same Cleveland team. So as you can see here, they're facing a righty today, so we're kind of going to look at the right-hand splits. As you can see, they are worse against right-handed pitching in every single area here. They're lower WOBA, lower WRC plus, and lower K percentage. And then off to the right is just kind of a work in progress for me right now. It's a model, so I'm kind of looking at just ranking some of those numbers that we just went over. So like xFIP, K per 9, swinging strike rate, and then up here I've got WOBA for the opponent during the season, K percentage for the season, last 14 days in the same, Vegas odds, and then park factor. So you can come in here now that you've made your own copy, and you can actually change these around, and it's going to change these ranks in the orange, as you're going to see. So just for instance, I'm going to erase all these, And let's just say we want to look at pitchers 50% weight on Vegas odds today. Obviously, that's going to put Trevor Bauer at the top because he's the number one in odds. You come down, you've got number 2s down here at the bottom, actually tied with Wade LeBlanc because they've got the same odds. We don't just want to look at Vegas odds. We want to see maybe you say you want some upside, K upside. So K per 9, we're going to go look at. Say 25% there. Swinging strike rate, that's just how many swings and misses a pitcher's getting. So if a pitcher's maybe got a high K per 9 but a low swinging strike rate, chances are he's going to regress back in his K per 9 rate, not going to get as many. Now you start looking at guys like, well, even Trevor Bauer. Let's slide over here and just have a look at his numbers, for instance. So he's got an 11.5 K per 9, striking out 31.4% of batters. Now you look at his swinging strike rate; it is elite. In that, anything over 10%, I really like to look at. So 13% swinging strike rate. So it's pretty sustainable that he's going to keep that 11 plus K per 9 rate, right around that 30% K percentage. So definitely like that. So that's why I like looking at swinging strike rate as well. So let's say we put a 15% weight on that swinging strike rate. So we've got it up to 90. And we're just looking at that here at the weighted average. We want that to be 100. So, you know, 10% more, you can probably go with, say, you just want to build an upside model. You look at the opponent K percentage over the last 14 days, so put 10% on that. It's going to change the rankings around as you change these numbers up here. So you can kind of fiddle around with it and play with it. I haven't back tested just to kind of figure it out, but that's something I'm going to be doing here in the second half, is just going back day by day and just back testing, comparing to how pitchers actually did, looking at their results, and seeing which model's a little bit more consistent overall. So that's just to kind of look at the pitchers here. So for today, I'm liking Trevor Bauer a lot. I mean, he's very expensive, but you got Steven Strasburg, who's making his return from the DL. You got Syndergaard, who is only making his second start since back from the DL. He only pitched 75 pitches in his first start. He's also facing the New York Yankees, and he's an underdog. So looking at the top tier of pitchers here, Tyler Skaggs also facing Houston. It's kind of, you know, it's relative to the slate that Trevor Bauer's up there in that 13-6 range, 12-2. He's also a big favorite. The park isn't great, and neither is the over-under, as you can look at the Vegas. But like I mentioned over here, Texas went into the break struggling a bit. They're striking out 26% of the time. He's got a 31% K rate. So the upside is definitely there. If you're paying up for one pitcher tonight, it's definitely going to be Trevor Bauer. Sliding down a little bit, I do like Jake Arrieta. He is ranked 13th overall in this model that I just did over here. A lot of that has to do with he's only got a 6.29 K per 9, under 20% K rate, which is always troubling, and then a 7.2% swing and strike rate. So the Ks are down, but his ground ball rate is very high. He's got a good ERA, pretty good xFIP. It's not too much higher than the ERA. It's kind of same with the Sierra a little bit. But what really stands out for Arrieta tonight is he's a 163 favorite. A little bit better park, kind of in that middle range. And then sliding over and looking, well, it's the Padres, and they are worst in the league. Third worst in the league when it comes to runs scored overall. And then sliding over and having a look at their versus right-handed pitching, they are a league worst, 286 WOBA, 81 WRC plus with almost a 26% K rate. So that really stands out there as well. If we're going to fit Trevor Bauer in tonight, we're going to need some cheaper pitching. One that I've kind of highlighted here is Danny Duffy. He is just a slight dog at the moment. I think that might come up. He's facing the Twins team in another medium pitcher's park. The Vegas odds are a little bit higher. Now, looking at his numbers, the ERA hasn't been great. Something else I always use, I get these stats, they do come from Fangraphs, so we're just going to go have a look at his Fangraphs page. I always like to look a little bit more why pitchers are pitching that way, so I'll use Fangraphs quite a bit. So we're going to go over to Duffy, look at his game logs. He's been tremendous lately. I believe he's held, yeah, as you can see here, back-to-back shutouts, 17 strikeouts against Chicago and Minnesota, so that's who he's facing tonight. He's Minnesota again. He has some big numbers that he has given up, but when he's good, he's allowing like 1 or less earned runs. He's going at least 6 innings. So that's something on FanDuel if you're looking for, you know, to load up on bats. You can pretty much load up on any stack you want with him because he's very cheap and he goes 6 innings. He kind of gives you that upside for that quality start as well as a win. Strikeouts, he kind of hits on all of that. So But on DraftKings, we can deal with a little bit of the ups and downs for him, just because he's 6,100. So if you're trying to get Trevor Bauer in there, you can still get in on DK under 20K in your 2 combined pitchers by using Danny Duffy. So he's one that I like tonight as well. Looking at the Twins, going over to their right-left splits, they have been slightly worse against left-handed pitching with 23.8 K rate, 21.1 versus righties. So that kind of stands out a little bit for me tonight, even though he is ranked 17th in the model as well. So sometimes with the model, it doesn't pick out and know if a pitcher's had minimum sample size, I guess you could say. So guys like Wade LeBlanc, he sits inside the top 10. Domingo German, I would actually use him. And the guys that I label here, you're probably wondering about the colors. Green are guys that I'm going to be using quite a bit. I've used them in any format. Blue are kind of be more of a GPP play. So German's been up and down. He's got a 5.49 ERA, but both the xFIP and Sierra are in that 3.5 to 4 range, which are quite a bit lower than his ERA. Like to see that because usually means that he's got some positive regression coming his way. He's got big K upside, almost 15% swinging strike rate, and he is a huge favorite, and facing a Mets team that definitely struggles. Now the Mets do struggle more against lefties than righties, but they don't have a really strong lineup, so definitely consider him there as well. This is the model that I built here. Also likes the Tigers, going against the Tigers with David Price. The only issue there is that we don't weight right now. I don't have weights on the splits, and as you can see, the Tigers are a heck of a lot better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. So I usually only like going against the Tigers with a less than elite pitcher when it is a right-hander. So I'm not really looking at him a bunch tonight. So take these ranks. It's kind of like I said, it's a work in progress. So take it with a grain of salt, the ranks. But definitely the stats that are in this sheet can help you narrow down your pitching selections on a night-to-night basis. Looking at whether you're looking at safety, at that ERA, xFIP, Sierra, or you're looking at upside at the K per 9, K percentage, swinging strike rate, and then of course the opponent stats over here as well. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at here is what I added. Now these tabs here, the FanDuel, DraftKings imports, odds, and matchups, that's just the imports where I get these stats and how it all draw it to this one sheet. For weather, it's always a concern with MLB, so something you can do if there's going to be some concerns is I've gone and I've made a stadium info. So we've got the park factor here, it's that average of 3 years, but then I've got every stadium listed here, the name of the stadium, outdoor, retractable roof, blah, blah, blah. But the most important here is with Weather Underground, I provided the closest weather station to each stadium. So say, for instance, we've got a game in Chicago today with the Cubs this afternoon, and it appears to be some weather. So we'll go here, just hover over that link for Chicago. And now when that opens, it's going to open that weather station that's closest to Chicago. So the first thing I always like to look at when I open these pages is just go to the hourly forecast. And again, it's weather, so it's not like an and-all, be-all, going to be 100% perfect. But as you can see, we've got scattered thunderstorms, 50 to 80%, and quite a bit of rain going to be in the forecast here. So it's a little more risky. So anything over like 30-40% chance of precipitation during like the first hour or two of the ball game, I'll usually fade those pitchers. I won't fade the hitters until we see, like a high chance, like 60 to 80%. So this is close of just a full fade on this game. Anything over like 60%, I'll even stay away from the hitters, unless it's like a GPP dart and you want to go contrarian because everyone else is going to be going against it. So that's something you can do if you're looking for weather in a specific stadium. And like I said, each one of these links goes to the closest weather station to each stadium. So then we got Park Factor. I kind of went over that a little bit. These are just the team inputs. So these are all the team hitting stats. So if you wanted to search other stats that aren't listed on the main sheet, you can come in here. And again, so if you wanted to search stats overall and you wanted to look at a team's isolated power overall, who's number one in that, just come here and go Z to A because you want highest to lowest. So you can see it's got the Yankees, which is no surprise. You got the Red Sox, you got the Dodgers. These are teams that are very high in power versus, a team like, for instance, let's go down and look at Well, even the Astros come down. They're still inside the top 10 in power, but they do score. The Nationals, for instance, here we go. They can score a lot of runs, but they're down quite a bit. Just close to that top 20, outside of that top 20 in isolated power. So when you're looking for upside for stacking, you really want that isolated power. You want guys who are going to get extra base hits, home runs, drive-in runs. So this is just something you can do. Like I said, you can scroll over. We've got splits for left-handed, right-handed. We've got splits last 14, last 7 days. We've got home road splits there as well for teams. And then the same thing for pitchers. I got every single pitcher in here. Don't necessarily have to be qualified innings for them to be in this. I've got every single pitcher, and we've got batted ball, we've got advanced, we've got pitching stats, we've got left-hand, right-hand splits, home road splits, all that kind of stuff. So what I added over the All-Star break here was a team stacking page. So first of all, I've got every team listed over here. I've got their implied runs for the day, and that's the way it's going to be sorted when you first come in here every single day. It's going to be sorted by implied runs, and again, that updates. I do an odds update 2-3 times a day. I'll go in and manually enter just kind of the odds and what a team's implied runs are. But then, as you'll see, I'm looking at Cleveland, so let's just have a look at Cleveland here. We've got their WOBA WRC Plus and ISO for the season, last 14 days, last 7 days. Green is good, red is bad, so it's going to be a little bit of the opposite of pitching, obviously, because for pitchers, when you're looking at opponents, you want teams with bad hitting. We're in the reverse for stacking. We're looking for teams that are high, so we want the teams in green here. So Cleveland's hitting stats overall, last 14, last 7 days. Got their home road splits. As you can see, they're a little bit better at home, quite a bit better at home than on the road. And a lot of that is park factor. They've got a good home park, so you're going to see that with teams like Colorado, Cleveland, Texas, stuff like that. So then we've got their splits for right-handed and left-handed versus righties and lefties, which you're going to want to pay attention to on a daily basis. And you can also look at that when you start sliding over here in the orange. This is the team they're playing that day, as well as the pitcher and his hand. So they're playing against lefties. So they are a touch worse versus lefties when it comes to overall power. 191 ISO versus righties, 159 versus lefties. They still got a lot of lefties that can crush the baseball, but this is an overall team. So something I might add in the future is just a team by team looking at splits for each individual player on that team. But for now, this is just where I've started. So then when you get to that opponent pitcher, you can slide all the way over and you can start looking at Cleveland's got 5.5 implied runs. They're facing Martin Perez, lefty. Now these are the pitcher stats. This is his ERA, xFIP, and hard contact percentage for the season, at home, on the road, versus righties and versus lefties. So right now I don't have a model looking at each team, but definitely implied runs are going to be up there. It's going to be one of the highest things, but it's also going to include pitchers. I'm also probably going to be adding pitchers looking at not just full season and home road and left-right splits, but I'm probably going to start adding in last 30 days. So you can get a feel for comparing how's he done for the season versus how's he done over the last month, which is usually 4 to 5 starts per pitcher. That's going to be good in determining whether he's trending up or trending down. Could have had a bad start to the season, and now he's pitching a lot better. And looking at overall numbers for the season isn't going to completely determine that. Although with Martin Perez, as you can see, he's got a 7.67 ERA, 5.62 xFIP, which means he's been about 2 runs better on the xFIP, which is a little bit more of a predictor of what his future ERA is going to look like. That's still not good, but it is better than his 7.67. So, and then the hard contact is something I really pay attention to when looking at stacking. So I want a team with power throughout their lineup that's projected to score a lot of runs tonight versus a weak pitcher. And with that pitcher, I don't just want them to be, bad ERA or xFIP. I want them to give up a lot of hard contact, which presents more upside. So as you can see with Martin Perez, you're going to want to target right-handed batters for the Cleveland Indians, because he gives up 47% hard contact versus righties, only 28% versus lefties, which makes sense because he's a left-handed pitcher. So that's just kind of how I use that. Another one would be Wade Miley. As you can see, he's been very good so far since coming back, a 2.38 ERA. Looking at his xFIP, it's 5.09. So he, it looks like there's going to be some regression coming for him for sure. and you start looking at it's a very limited sample size, like I mentioned before. He's only made 4 starts versus a lot of guys they've already made like 18, 19 starts so far. But he's given up 57% hard contact to left-handed batters and a 0 ERA. So he's done very well against left-handed batters with an 8.40 xFIP, 0 ERA. Probably going to regress a little bit. He is a lefty, but even then, 48% versus righties, a 3 ERA and a 4.23 xFIP. So you might want to target some lefties against him. You know, a lot of people do go against, you know, fading the lefty-lefty matchups, but in some instances, and using this sheet, you can definitely pick out those pitchers with some reverse splits or something like that, and put together, you know, a good stack with possible lower ownership. So something else, just like the pitchers, I'm going to start highlighting every day the stacks that I like. So Cleveland, Toronto stand out. Kind of looking at Toronto here. They are, let's see, yeah, they're 9th in implied runs. Actually, that would be 7th because Chicago and St. Louis are on the early slate. So just looking at that main slate, they're a cheap team. If you're trying to get Trevor Bauer, and especially on FanDuel, you can stack, you know, 4 Toronto guys. They're very cheap. What stands out for me, Dylan Bundy's been up and down. He's shown some upside, but he's also got blown up this year. Stats aren't that great, 4.35 ERA, 4.12 xFIP, but what really stood out to me today is looking at his splits. So kind of the the right-left splits is what I was looking at. And against lefties, and what I couldn't fit into this sheet is actually the WOBA he's given up in those splits. So I'm going to search Bundy here on Fangraphs. And we're just kind of going to have a look at his splits there as well, because it can tell a little bit more of a different story. As you can see here, it's pretty close. The ERA and the xFIP and the hard contact percentage between lefties and righties, as you would expect. He'd be a little bit worse against lefties. Checking that out in a little bit deeper scale, it's definitely true. Versus lefties, he's given up a 378 WOBA, while it's only a 288 WOBA to righties. 505 slugging percentage versus a 402 slugging percentage. So he gives up home runs to both sides, which is good. But for the Jays, they can definitely stack left-handed bats at the top of the lineup. So we're probably going to see like a Granderson, Solarte, Smoke, and Morales as at least probably, maybe not the top 4, but 4 of the top 5 batters. So definitely be looking at left-handed bats versus Dylan Bundy tonight. So that's just kind of an introduction to my sheet. I'm definitely going to be adding a ton more very, very soon here, so that we can really crush the second half of Daily Fantasy Baseball. Like I said, individual batters for these teams that I like, maybe breaking down Cleveland's versus righties versus lefties. So not only pick the teams that you want to target that night, but the batters off those teams that you want to target as well. But that's all I got for today. If you have any questions, definitely hit me up in the DFSR chat room, in the comments section of the articles. You can hit me up on RotoPros in the Slack chat if you're a member. Or another great place you can hit me up. I get a lot of notifications, so always online is Twitter. And my Twitter account is @Jaeger_bombs9. Cheers, everyone, and good luck tonight.